In this video, I'll be looking at those cartoon couples that make you think, why don't they just get divorced already? The unhappy marriage is a huge trope in animation and TV in general, which is why there are so many to choose from. And to help me answer this, I've assembled a few of my YouTuber friends to give me their opinion. Side note, this list is less about how these couples are bad parents, but more how they treat each other. So quickly write down below your pick for the worst cartoon couple now, and let's see how many people agree or disagree with you. So first up, we have Joe and Bonnie from Family Guy. How could I not start this list with these two? I mean, Bonnie literally puts broken glass in Joe's food.
Well, she must like ground glass because I keep finding it in my food.
But it wasn't always like this. So rewinding back to the first season of Family Guy when the couple were introduced, and it's clear that these two loved each other.
Joe, you're so funny.
So much so that they were definitely the happiest couple in Spooner Street.
Now give me some sugar.
But over the years, Bonnie slowly began to hate her husband to a sinister degree, like to the point where she bought a rickety old house so he'd roll out into the rocks below in his wheelchair. Also, it seems that she was slowly starting to see their marriage as her burden, which became clearer when she thought that he had died, so blew up their house and walked away with a sick smile on her face, almost as if she was experiencing some kind of euphoria by leaving it all behind. But it's not all on Bonnie though. A lot of it is, but not all of it. Joe has cheated on her with a work colleague. But again, she has taken this a whole lot further, hooking up with strangers online and having a secret relationship with their priest.
What is it, Bonnie?
Nothing, Father Monahan.
It seems that now though, in the recent seasons, Joe is even more emasculated, as in the newer episodes he knows all about her cheating and patiently waits outside until she's finished.
Pass me a Michael Crichton, she's gonna be a while.
And man, that is sad, especially considering from how they started. Next up, we have Clay and Blaberta Puppington from Moral Orel. When I made a community post asking for you guys for your recommendations on the worst couple, so many of you brought up Orel's parents, and I mean a lot of you. And this is awkward because I had literally no idea this show even existed until Saberspark commented on my worst dad video. So of course I had to reach out to him to help explain why these two apparently suck so much, and being a big fan of the show, he said yes. So I'll let him explain.
Hey, thanks Lydia. Clay and Blaberta. Two of the most evil parents in animation, no, the most evil, and undeniably the worst couple too.
You have never been on my side!
Why would I be on the side of a self-destructive alcoholic?
Let me put this in perspective for you. When Clay and Blaberta first met, Clay was pretty well adjusted, all things considered. Blaberta, on the other hand, had a crippling desire to be helpful. So what did she do? She introduces alcohol to Clay, gets him hooked on it, he blacks out, and Blaberta convinces Clay that she took care of him while he was passed out. She then pressures him to marry her. And so begins their twisted relationship that is just full of resent and hatred for one another. Their kids? Ignored if they're lucky. But more often than not, the boys are deliberately being shoveled terrible life lessons that just drip with spite and cynicism. Their religious dogma and personal shortcomings have created a toxic environment that's just all too familiar to many actual people who watch Moral Orel.
We simply can't mix with their kind. It's dangerous.
There's a wrong way to believe in God?
Sure.
That is why this show is cathartic and oddly comforting, because we've seen people like Clay and Blaberta before. Misery loves company, and that is why Clay and Blaberta stay together. They obviously hate one another. Hell, Clay is gay, but he's in the closet, and he's also stuck in this black hole of self-loathing and contempt. That it's just easier for the two to keep hating each other, rather than actually address these points of contention and heal. They are the worst. Lydia, good luck, and thank you for having me.
Stan and Francine from American Dad. I want to first start this off by saying, of course, these two definitely aren't the worst couple, especially when compared to everyone else in this video. But I still thought they deserved a mention because their marriage is definitely far from perfect. For example, Stan messes up a lot, so much in fact that he actually takes Francine to a hypnotherapist every single year to forget certain things. Like him causing the death of their baby Bailey by not getting him vaccinated. So yeah, and you can't deny that making your wife forget that she had a child is insanely dark and messed up. What's worse is that he also convinced her that she killed her very own best friend in a drunken rage, even digging up her body and dumping it on their bed.
What happened?
You killed her.
Then he sent her to a psychiatric hospital when he forgot their anniversary, leading into them both being lobotomized. He's also admitted that he's only interested in Francine because she's hot.
There was nothing else?
Nope,
Just my appearance.
that is correct.
And when she stopped taking care of herself to prove a point, he then blinded himself.
I had my retinas removed. I'm completely blind.
But to be fair, Francine has also admitted that she's into Stan for superficial reasons.
I guess I'm just as shallow as you are.
I guess you are.
Again, hardly the worst couple on this list because I do feel like they really do love each other despite their faults, which is more than what I can say for most of the other couples. So let's continue to Bob and Miriam Pataki from Hey Arnold. And to talk about these guys, I had to bring back Dusk Till Sean. Last time he went into how Miriam isn't such a great mother in such an interesting and thoughtful way, so this time he'll be discussing how Helga's parents aren't so great to each other. So take it away, Sean.
Hey friends, so we definitely can't talk about worst couples without bringing up Miriam and Big Bob Pataki from Hey Arnold. The show made it very apparent that these two should have never ended up together and that they make for a rather toxic couple. Throughout the run of the series, it's kind of hinted that Miriam once had big hopes for her life, but she left all of that behind to marry Bob. He ended up pursuing his own beeper empire while she was expected to stay at home and take care of the house. We would constantly see him put her down and consistently being a less than stellar partner towards her. It's possible that once upon a time he was a great guy and over time his true colors were shown. Furthermore, he seems to have little to no interest in his wife, romantically speaking. In response to all of this baggage and a massively apparent lack of healthy communication, Miriam leans on alcohol to cope with their dysfunctional relationship. To be fair though, it seems as if she never really puts much of an effort into fixing their relationship either. The only time that we ever really see them having a healthy and loving relationship is when their favorite daughter, Olga, comes home to visit. With that being said, it's pretty safe to assume that their two kids are really the only positive thing that ever came out of their relationship.
Thanks, Sean, and by the way, if you're a big fan of the 90s Nick show, seriously go and subscribe to his channel. But do wait until this video is done though, because up next we have the Joker and Harley Quinn from the Batman animated series. Have you ever seen those cringy posts that say, "Screw Romeo and Juliet, I want a love like Joker and Harley Quinn"? You probably saw it on some weird guy's Tinder account or a 14-year-old girl's Tumblr account. But yeah, anyway, obviously these people have absolutely no idea just how toxic this relationship is. I mean, Batman puts it best.
The Joker doesn't love anything except himself.
So, to fully break down this insane relationship, I reached out to Luke from the channel Serum Lake. And this guy, he's a DC encyclopedia. He also makes these fantastic deep dives into the villains of the animated series. So I'll let him explain why you should never ever see these two as couple goals.
When it comes to toxic relationships, Batman the Animated Series isn't short of them. Who can forget the Invisible Man Lloyd Ventrix and his estranged wife Helen? Or Matt Hagen and Teddy Lupus? And then there's Batman and Talia al Ghul. When will he realise that she is only ever going to be loyal to her father? But when it comes to the most dysfunctional of relationships, there's one pairing that leaps to the front of the queue as the most disastrous relationship in BTAS, and that's the Joker and Harley Quinn. From her very first appearance in the Joker's favour, we can tell that Harley Quinn is utterly devoted to the Joker, applauding his fairly mundane schemes and giving a boost to his ego. And how does he repay this unending loyalty? With a slap to the face and a boot to the posterior. Seriously, even when the Joker kicks her out, Harley is still certain that there's a chance that they can reconcile, much to the annoyance of her new roommate, Poison Ivy. This back and forth would go on for years across Batman the Animated Series, The Adventures of Batman and Robin, The New Batman Adventures, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League, and even a little bit of Batman Beyond. Despite everything, multiple murder attempts, some unfaithfulness, and even a carbon copy replacement of Harley, there's little that'll keep Harley Quinn from her man. The new Batman Adventures episode Mad Love is a prime example of how one-sided their relationship is. The episode acts as an origin story of sorts for Harley Quinn, detailing how she was the Joker's psychotherapist at Arkham Asylum and how he groomed her into becoming his unwavering lackey. It's not unheard of for patients to transfer their feelings towards their therapist, but in this case it's the other way around. This is arguably one of the worst cases of countertransference of all time, never mind in any cartoon. And it's sad because to the Joker, Harley is just a tool, something he can pick up when he needs and put away again when his attentions divert to his one true passion, defeating Batman. You know what? On second thoughts, maybe the relationship between the Joker and Batman is the most dysfunctional on any cartoon. Food for thought.
Next up, we have Beth and Jerry from Rick and Morty. So first of all, let's go back to season 1 when Jerry asks his wife this.
Do you still love me?
Ugh, what kind of question is that?
And instead of comforting her husband, she replies with this.
Loving you is work, Jerry. Hard work.
This conversation pretty much sums up their marriage, and even though the show is the multi-dimensional adventures of a scientist and his grandkid, there is also a focus on Beth and Jerry's relationship here.
Sure you want to take romantic advice from this guy, Morty. His marriage is hanging from a thread.
In the episode 60 Minutes, we saw a glimpse of their lives in an alternate reality, and the couple seemed to be very happy and successful, and apart, so it leads them into breaking up in their reality.
Now that you know you could have had it better, you resent me for holding you back.
But as they continue to observe their counterparts' lives, they find that they are actually miserable without one another. This then encourages Jerry and Beth not to break up. Despite this episode though, the two would continue to argue throughout the series and would even split up for real later on.
It's him or me.
Only to get back together again. Later on, to dig deeper into their issues, they attend couple counselling, and it's here we find out that Beth sees her husband as a pathetic, spineless worm.
How can Beth have these thoughts about me? A judgmental monster bitch!
And Jerry, he sees his wife as a terrifying monster. These feelings then manifest into real creatures that then kill people, which might just be the perfect personification of their codependent relationship. Honestly, their marriage is not only toxic, but also very, very complex, so there is absolutely no way we can unpack it all right here, right now.
Because the two of you are the worst. You both hate yourselves and each other.
So do let me know if you'll be interested in a full-length deep dive later on. Beatrice and Butterscotch from BoJack Horseman. So Beatrice first met Butterscotch at her debutante ball, and he was the complete opposite of what her rich father wanted for her. So they snuck away and spent the night testing his car suspension, leading into her getting pregnant. Butterscotch wanted her to get an abortion, but she refused, so they got married and soon BoJack was born. However, their marriage was a truly unhappy one with constant arguing. You see, Butterscotch resented his wife because he felt that she was holding him back from writing the great American novel. He also had multiple affairs and wound up getting their maid pregnant. Butterscotch then begged for his wife to help fix his problem, so Beatrice offered to pay for the girl's education, but only if she gave the baby up for adoption. So yeah, pretty dark stuff for a show that has talking horses in it. Alador and Adalia Blight from Owl House. In that community post that I mentioned earlier, Adalia and Alador Blight were another couple of names that came up a lot. And yeah, I know I still haven't seen Owl House and I'm completely aware that I fully suck because of that. But I have been busy in assembling the Avengers of Animation, and to join the team is my buddy, Man of 1000 Thoughts. He's a big fan of the show, having covered it a lot on his channel. So please give us one of your thoughts, Man of 1000 Thoughts.
Thank you, Lydia. Alador and Odalia certainly are an interesting couple from the Owl House series, by which I mean it's interesting how much they don't care to be a couple. Their circumstances come from their clear use of the other for benefit. Odalia just sees Alador as a means to profit off his inventions, and Alador sees her as a means to fund his creations. There's no love between them, and the kids they had were just heirs to the throne, at least in Odalia's eyes. Alador thankfully had an epiphany and realized that his kids are important. Odalia ended up being the big reason this couple couldn't work ultimately. What with her being too controlling of her family, or her ways of manipulating others, or, you know, the whole betraying her fellow witches in favor of royalty status even though they're already rich. Make it make sense, please. But I digress. Alador isn't fully absolved with the fact that he sided with Odalia a lot of the time, but that's why he took it upon himself to actually make it up to his kids. Well, Amity at least. You even get some hints of his sense of empathy when you're first introduced to him, so not a perfect dad, but definitely a trying one. Alador and Odalia are a prime example of a status marriage that absolutely couldn't last long. It wasn't healthy for the kids or for either of them to continue that relationship, which is ultimately a good message in hindsight to never treat a relationship like a business venture and to end it when there's clearly no love there. But hey, if you want a more in-depth look at the Owl House and how it breaks a genre, check out my Breaking the Fantasy videos over on my channel. But that's just a thought.
Sharon and Randy Marsh from South Park. Sharon is actually one of the very few normal people in South Park, but she happens to be married to the most chaotic man in South Park. So she has to put up with a lot of crap, which is a literal statement because one of her husband's most disgusting ambitions was to crap out the biggest poo in the entire world. Ew.
Oh, Randy!
Will you look at that? Is that the biggest crap you've ever seen or what?
She also had to deal with Randy's obsessive cooking phase.
I gotta get to work. I cook so you guys clean up.
Him striving to be the most obnoxious man at their son's baseball games.
No, I'm telling you, you don't have to get thrown out of games and make an ass of yourself.
And him spending all of their savings on a Blockbuster store.
Blockbuster's so out of date, it's ancient. Ha ha, Sharon, okay, I get it.
Randy's problem is that he always puts his needs and wants before everyone else, like when he moved them all the way out into a weed farm and far away from their family and friends. So it's not surprising that when Randy was arrested for blowing up local marijuana farms, Sharon was ecstatic and threw a giant party to celebrate.
That's why I took down Randy's pictures too, because, you know, they remind me of Randy.
And talking about more recent episodes, like the special Not Suitable for Children, the two of them made competing OF accounts, which basically meant putting them and their jiggly bits out for the world to see.
Randy, please, let's just call it a tie, okay?
Oh, I bet you'd love that now.
I actually do want to make an entire video about their whole dysfunctional relationship, but my South Park videos don't always get the best views, so do let me know if you would be interested in that video because it's a lot of time and effort otherwise, if no one really wants to see it. Next up is Stolas and Stella from Helluva Boss. This is another couple that people said I had to include, and again, this is yet another popular show that I have never ever seen, but I do have Helluva Boss definitely on my watch list. But until I get round to it, I've asked my good friend Kitty Monk to talk about it instead, because she's covered it a lot on her channel, including 2 individual videos on Stolas and Stella. So it's probably best that she takes over and I'll shrivel up into my shame hole.
Thanks, Lydia. For those of you who don't know, Stolas and Stella are husband and wife, and in the simplest of terms, their marriage sucks. I mean, sending a hitman after your husband sucks, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The main conflict of Helluva Boss is kicked off by Blitz sleeping with Stolas in order to gain access to Stolas' grimoire, a magical tome that allows you to travel to the human world. As expected of any wife, Stella isn't happy that her husband slept with somebody who isn't her, and takes whatever opportunity she can to make her feelings well known, even to the detriment of their own daughter.
I'm not spending another moment looking at your pathetic, imp-sucking face!
However, I want you to notice something. Whenever Stella yells, she isn't angry that Stolas is sleeping around, or even that he cheated on her. She's mad that Stolas slept with an imp, a lower creature, and on top of that, one who he loves, in a super public manner, even if Blitz doesn't return it the way Stolas wants. At one point, their marriage gets to be so bad that Stella hires an assassin to kill Stolas in broad daylight. The only reason she called him off was to keep Stolas alive until their divorce was finalized, and she could bleed him for every penny.
Change of plans, darling. I need the prick alive.
Because as she learns the hard way, if he dies right now, everything would pass to their daughter, and Stella would get none of it. you kinda have to wonder, why the fuck are these two together? Well, season 2 gives us some answers. On the day Stolas got his grimoire, he was also engaged to Stella in order to sire a precautionary heir to the Goetia family. Essentially, when the two came of age, they were melded together as a breeding contract.
You and I were arranged for one reason, to birth a precautionary heir to the Goetia family.
Now, this wouldn't be such a bad thing. True, neither of them probably wanted this, but there were options to make this work. They could have had what Lenore and Rhaenyra did in House of the Dragon. Just have the baby they're expected to provide, make public appearances when called upon, give a united front, and then each can go do their own thing, even if they're just roommates. But while Stella hated the patrol as much as Stolas, she only got joy out of watching her husband squirm and flaunting to everybody else that they still somehow weren't divorced yet.
You leave with fear on weekends, but then you stay around the house despite everything.
I like tormenting you.
The only reason Stolas puts up with her abuse was for his daughter. Stolas himself grew up with absent parents in a giant house all by himself. Of course, it's never a good thing when you stay together with somebody you hate for the sake of your children. But for 17 years, Stolas did the best he could in the face of Stella's abuse and the humiliation from the other Goetia. While the pair are currently in the process of divorcing and things seem to be rocky, will they finally get past their differences? I for one don't see things picking up. Still, season 2 isn't over yet, and when Helluva Boss returns in a few months, I can't wait to see what comes next. Back to you, Lids.
Thanks so much, Kitty, and now I'm back. Let's talk about Peter and Lois from Family Guy. Did you really think that I wasn't going to bring up Family Guy again? Okay, now, where to start? Well, like Bonnie, Lois is having multiple affairs behind Peter's back, but don't feel too bad for Peter because he has a whole secret family complete with a husband and some kids.
Adam Kenneth Handelman, when will you learn?
They are constantly belittling and putting each other down, also openly expressing how they don't find each other attractive and are just waiting around for the kids to leave so they can get a divorce. Yikes. It's more so Lois who wants to break up, but Peter's manipulation stops her.
I think this relationship has...
If you leave me, I will kill myself.
And yeah, maybe Lois can come across as a bit of a nag sometimes, but can you blame her? I mean, Peter literally humiliated her on live TV by creating a puppet called Saggy Naggy. Plus, he also killed their first child in front of her by shaking him too hard.
I thought if I shook him enough, he'd stop crying. I was kinda right.
So now we come to the final question, who is animation's worst couple? Again, it was such a hard choice, but I'm gonna have to go with Joker and Harley Quinn because, well, of course I am. These two are literally textbook examples of a toxic couple, one that is purely based on manipulation and majorly imbalanced power-wise. At least with the others, on some kind of level, it had a shared attraction and perhaps a goodish relationship. But the Joker, he's willing to sell Harley out, abuse her, and manipulate her without a second thought. But that's just my opinion, and I want to hear yours. Do let me know your choice in the comments below. Also, a big thank you to Saberspark, Kitty Monk, Dust Till Sean, Man of 1,000 Thoughts, and Serum Lake. Please go and subscribe to them now because they all have awesome channels and they really did a big favour by helping me.